Tonight's chat is tragedies. Why do we pick and choose which ones to remember? The reason why I bring this up is because there's a hypocrisy in America. And when I say hypocrisy in America, I mean a genuine hypocrisy when it comes to remembering tragedies. For example, let's go with World War II time period. We choose to remember the Holocaust and Pearl Harbor, but for some reason, we choose to forget about Japanese internment camps. And for those asking, oh, what do you mean by Japanese internment camps? Well, let me give you the history behind them. After Pearl Harbor, the base in Hawaii was bombed by the Japanese military. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was the president at the time, decided that the best way to get the motive of the Japanese military was to put our own Japanese Americans who were born in Japan and had children who were Japanese Americans who were born in America. George Takei is a survivor of this internment camp. Well, anyway, the gist is, like the Holocaust, we put our own citizens in internment camps, but instead of starving our citizens to death, we gave them an education which was pro-American propaganda and Japanese people are awful education. And we put them in barracks, just like the Nazis did with the Jewish people. But you're probably Googling this right now, or you're probably Googling this while I'm speaking it, so you could confirm what I'm saying is true. That's what I mean when I say there's a hypocrisy in America when it comes to remembering tragedies. Now, here's another more recent, I would say, tragedy anniversary that's about to come up, but you probably forgot about it already. The Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando, Florida. You know what's sad? When a tragedy happens and then a year later you have to look up when it happened. Unlike some tragedies, let's say 9/11, where it's drilled in our heads every 9/11 that we can't forget what happened, but at the same time, we forgot about Sandy Hook, and that happened would be 5 years ago, would be 6 years ago, around November. You ask someone, when did the Holocaust happen? They'll be able to tell you. You ask someone, when did Pearl Harbor happen? They'll be able to tell you. If you ask someone when 9/11 happened, they'll be able to tell you. But if you ask them about the Japanese internment camps, Sandy Hook, Pulse or Orlando shooting, or the Omaha State bombs, explosions, nobody will be able to tell you. Because for some reason, those tragedies just weren't important enough to be remembered, apparently. They were important enough to remember for a week or so after they happened, but then after that, flash in the pan, because it didn't bring up enough political talk. And that's inevitably the sad thing about tragedies. When tragedy happens, it should just be a tragedy. But a lot of politicians use tragedies as political pawns to get votes. Even tragedies that include children. In the 2016 presidential election race, people compared Trump to Hitler. You have Democrats comparing, if Trump got elected, that means the American citizens would be comparable victims. Yeah. Martin O'Malley. No one called him out on it. People were like, woo! Dare you? Applaud that. And if you're probably one of those people that voted for Hillary Clinton, you probably applauded when he said that. Why? Why use the tragedy as a political pawn, especially when you know the tragedy was a genocide? But the reason why I'm making this video is not to say that talked about were less tragic. By all means, they were. And I'm not saying the ones that are talked about and that are used as political pawns are the only tragedies to talk about. No, I'm not saying that. Instead of picking and choosing which tragedies to remember, let's remember all the tragedies that happen. We may not have to bring it up every year, but let's not forget that they happened. Because I think that based on the American consensus, if it wasn't political, the tragedy isn't remembered. It's sad to say, but it's true. Let's look at Sandy Hook. Remember, for the brief second that it is. And when is it brought up? Control debate. Yes, that's the only time Sandy Hook is brought up, when there's gun control debate. Forget about making schools safer, because that's not a political topic. That's just a universal thing that every American who has their child in school wants. They want safer schools. Making schools safer, let's talk about gun control. Let's use the deaths of innocent children to talk about gun control. For the brief second that Sandy Hook is remembered, that's why. Instead of having a memorial every year like they do for 9/11. You pick and choose a tragedy to remember, but then when you choose to remember a tragedy, it's normally used for a political pawn. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you understand why I'm pissed off about tragedies that are picked and chosen to be remembered.